Pataneasters, welcome to a vlog of the Scottish Wool Producers Showcase 2023 that took place last weekend. I'll let you browse through all the shops and all the vendors first, and then I'll pop back in later to show you my haul and what vintage patterns I may be inspired to use with all of my new Scottish wool, hint hint. Will anyone guess what I buy from the vendors? If you are tempted by any of the woolly goodness around on display, I'll try and link all of the stalls in description, even the few stalls I didn't quite manage to get on video as it was a sell-out event, so the show was very busy. Scottish Wool Producer Showcase could be called the little baby sister to the Scottish Yarn Festival, which was of course previously known as the Perth Yarn Festival. And it's run by Eva and her many volunteers, and I'm sure all of us that attended last weekend would like to say a huge thank you to everyone that made the event happen. One of the volunteers this year was Kate from Blue Dot Yarns, who was actually the dyer behind this shawl, and I got to meet her and show her what all of her handmade work had come to fruition as. This is the Fleur pattern by Espace Tricot, with a slight modification in that I actually crocheted the bobbles and I went from bigger to smaller as they got down towards the edge. And of course in the DK version I did it as all one colourway rather than striping in two. Now, the Scottish Yarn Festival has its own YouTube channel, and Eva has interviewed most of the vendors that you've seen in those short clips today. So if you want to find out more about any of the vendors, their products, their farms, you'll get to see some of the goats and sheep that they're all farming, then pop over to Eva's YouTube channel or Instagram account. So let's see if any of you are able to guess what I actually bought. Now, of course, as I am a patternista and I love patterns, we're going to have to start first with some designs and the Murit publication. This is filled with crochet patterns, and if you're a crocheter, you're going to want to have a go at some clothing, then this is certainly a magazine, if that's what you want to call it, but it's a wonderful publication with a lot of modern twists on patterns. I'm going to try and find one just now. This year they've definitely gone for bright colours, so you can see it's a lady of shawls. I like this. Now the Alison Chu, who actually publishes this, curates an amazing publication, and as I said, she's definitely gone for some bright colours this year. Let's see if I can find this one. Don't you think this is an amazing pattern? And one of the things she did in this magazine was actually publish a little bit on some of the actual wood producers in the mills. This one was on New Lanark. Now, of course, the joy of a paper copy is that you can also download an electronic copy too. So if you're actually from overseas and you don't want the publication to send out this lovely thick magazine, then you can actually order an electronic copy as well, so you can enjoy the crochet goodness. Now this is issue 4 I picked up. I have the first 3 issues, and as I said, they tend to be slightly more moody colours that she's gone for previously, but this is definitely Candy Shop. Let me see if I can find some other gorgeous designs and pictures here for outfits that she has. So yeah, if you're wanting something that's a bit different for crochet only, then definitely have a look. She's got wools and patterns from all over. It's not just Scottish, even though she actually publishes this in Edinburgh. So moving on to another beautiful item made with Scottish wool, we'll have to show you this. And it's actually full at the moment. But this is from Ellen, and it's a Harris tweed bag, and isn't it? It's got beautiful tweed on the outside. It's actually got a batik lining on the inside too, and it's actually full, but once I empty it, I'll show you that. And can you see all of those beautiful colours? I'm not sure if you can. We've got lime green, green, red, blue, pink, purple. I'm probably missing a few yellow maybe. Anyway, it's a very true artisan piece. The woven cloth, of course, is hand woven in Harris, in the Isle of Lewis and Harris, and of course Ellen's handmade this herself as well. So I'll insert a clip if I can find it from my last trip to the island of Harris and Lewis, showing some of the weavers working on their looms in their houses or their out houses. So yeah, it's a very special bag, but it's also holding a project or a project with some yarn anyway, that may not be knit until autumn given the colours, but I was inspired some of my vintage patterns I wanted to try and make an autumnal forest. So first of all, we have this pattern from Peyton's. Ooh, and I'll try and insert a picture. But it's a large triangular shawl knit with a chunky yarn. which will make the knit go a bit faster if you were actually going to knit this directly. And the pattern's copyrighted in 1978, and it certainly comes with a big fringe. It's not exactly my style, but the idea of the trees with the leaves that look like little trees themselves gave me an idea. And do you think I can turn this into a row of autumnal trees for like a cowl? Now, if you've ever tried taking a pattern out of a pattern like this, especially when it is triangular and you're trying to find one tiny bit, especially when it's knit back and forth, it requires a lot of mass and can be quite difficult. So I thought, although it wouldn't be impossible to count, life's a bit too short for that. When I have another pattern that I found, this one, which is Wendy's number 2637, and it's got a very similar design, and it's a center panel that goes up. So although this is still knit back and forth, it's obviously going to be a lot simpler to try and find the pattern for the leaf that you're after. It's also worth checking lots of knitting stitch bibles. This is one of the Japanese knitting stitch bible by Hitomi Shida. This is actually volume 2, and it has some stunning patterns in here. And you can see one of them has actually got that leaf pattern there. See if I can get the shine off it. Now, there's lots of other patterns in here, which I'm not sure if I'd have the patience or the skill to knit, but I mean, they're absolutely stunning. So yeah, have a look at some of these. So maybe that pattern could be the fallen leaves under the trees, who knows? So as I said, I'd love to try and knit this as an autumnal cowl with trees of lots of different tints. And I was lucky enough to find some amazing wool at the showcase at Perth that actually, believe it or not, is from sheep not that far away from where I stay, even though I went more than 2 hours south to Perth to actually find it. And it's actually from Westcroft Farm, which is out near Inverurie, but she has a friend that grows farms, blue-faced Leicesters, down at Hardhoch near Dufftown. She then sent off this undyed wool to Celia McWheely, which you may have seen as another vendor there to dye. And she was inspired by the willow that she grows, and you probably saw those amazing willow baskets on her stand. And she comes up with a willow, and this is the willow saffron colour. This is the willow russet colour. She also had a yellow and a green version. And unfortunately, I didn't buy the green at the time, and then was like, no regrets, Instagram come to the rescue. And thankfully, there was still some left to purchase. So Marguerite's been kind enough to try and put that in the post to me. So hopefully I'll have some happy mail prior to Easter. Maybe better for my hips than a chocolate egg anyway. So yeah, so can you see? This is the background with these gorgeous colours. Here is some more tints. And I actually bought a yellow skein already. So let's see, this was from a different dyer. I'll talk about that in a minute. But yeah, can you see the 3 of these colours along with the sort of natural colour? Not doing this very well. Who thinks we're professional at this? Because we're not. So yeah, let's have a look here. We got the 3 gorgeous colours for autumnal tints to make up into that cowl, hopefully. As I said, this one, which is the yellowish colour, is actually, it's not BFL, it's a white face woodland sheep, which is one of our rare breeds. And this is a non-superwash DK, and Alex, who's the dyer behind Unaroo Designs here up in the Cairngorms, has done this, gorgeous sort of muted yellow. So again, with a bit more browns and tints that you can just see sort of equivalent of a autumnal tree turning as you get into fall, as you would know over in the States. So do you get inspired by wool and just it tells you what to do? I'd love to hear if that's ever happened for you, and hopefully it worked out with the pattern in the end. Now, as I said, Alex has this quite unusual rare breed. She's very enthusiastic about her Scottish wool breeds and British wool beads, and this one is called the, what's it called? The Eagle and the Hare. So another one on her Whiteface Woodland base, which she says is currently her favourite at the moment. So of course you've got to try that out, but it's certainly a stunning colour there. You can see sort of aquas and purples. And what I'd like to make with it, if I get it up the right way, is, no, this one on this side. This is a bonnet that is on Coats pattern number 99. Is 99, yes. And I think it's from the late 1960s, given the 9D price. But I think that with this gorgeous wool would be a bit of a nice combination for a hat, and certainly be a bit different to what we're all knitting as sort of beanies at the moment. Now the pattern says it needs 3 ounces, so hopefully 100 gram skein will be enough, but obviously when you're substituting wool you're never quite sure. So yeah, 3 ounces, about 85 grams. So yeah, I'm hoping this 100 grams will go enough meterage or yardages to cover it. Now the next yarn I've actually been dreaming about since I was at Perth for the Perth Festival of Yarn in September, and I didn't buy anything from Anfield Farm last time around, and their Scottish mohair has been going, you should have bought me, you should have bought me. I'm sure you have that too, you know, yarn regrets. But anyway, I was lucky enough, they were back there last weekend, and I've managed to get hold of myself some of their gorgeous mohair. Now the husband and wife team farm their own goats. You can see a picture here of the two of them, if I can get that without scanning through, their own goats near Dunfermline, and they really do believe in sort of ethical farming. So they started in 2020 with just 7 goats and a dream, they said, and what a dream. And they mix it with Shetland from a farmer that's local to them in Fife. So yeah, it's a gorgeous wool blend, which I don't know if you can see has got quite a halo to it. Oh, can we see that? Maybe not. Please focus. And of course that hopefully will either become a mohair dare for a colour art project, maybe a fuzzy edge to a shawl, but it's certainly going to sit in my stash until I have what exactly it's going to be used for. But at least it's going to be there ready, and it's in the colourway Moorland Purple. They've just dyed this in January 2023, obviously for the show. So definitely a colour you can probably see up in the far corner. I have a number of purple yarns, so yeah, I could definitely go with one of those potentially. Now another 2 skeins that spoke to me because of the blended colours, and I think the Exmoor wool itself, is this salt colourway from Nervous Fibres. Now Charlotte the dyer behind Nervous Fibres creates always stunning colour palettes, and this most definitely is no exception. I just hope the colour and light in here is going to let you be able to see all of the mix of colours. But I mean, to me it reminds me of the best of tweeds, and in fact actually it's fairly similar to the tweed bag. Look, if you hold these up you can sort of see some of the colour matches and mixture in there. So yeah, best the tweeds, but so yeah, the two together definitely remind me sort of walking in tweed through babbling brooks, tumbling over moss covered granite and cutting through peat, sprouting with heather. So yeah, just amazing colourways. This is technically a sock yarn on her fingering weight, but it's with her Exmoor sock, so again a British wool here that she's dyed against. So yeah, absolutely gorgeous. It probably could actually go with the purple, but I think this purple may just be a bit too strong. You never know, but maybe we can swatch them, maybe two or 3, but you know, let me know if you think there's something that I should be knitting with these 2. Otherwise they'll sit in my stash for just now. So my last 2 skeins came from the Border Mill, and it's actually their alpaca silk base. They're 70% alpaca, 30% silk. Now these are actually 25 grams, and again, not sure if the colour is going to be shown off. Okay, that's maybe fairly decent. And you've got both the cerise being that cherry red, and then one that's I think called Perseus, which is that gorgeous dark colour with sort of lighter flecks. I'm guessing the silk going through it, sort of shot of aqua there. Amazing. They're incredibly drapey, as you would expect with an alpaca silk blend. So, and there's not a huge amount of yardages. So we've got 125 meters per each skein, but they definitely did speak to me. And one of the things that I thought I might be inspired to do is make sort of mini collars with them. So this is from the Women's Own supplement from the 29th of October 1958. So I said there's a shawl colour on the front that you could then attach to, but this is the one that probably inspired me most, which was their apricot jumper that they called it, with a collar that sort of has a mini scarf on it. So you could again do the two contrasting colours. And I think that's obviously quite an achievable project too, that you could actually, rather than doing a full-size scarf, you could just do a little one that goes round the top of a circular neck jumper, and you could even sew it onto a round neck sweater as well if you want to style it up yourself with your own hand make. So yeah, let's see if it can become that. But yeah, nice thing just to have a bit of silk round your neck as a bit of a collar. So did any of you guess what I was actually buying at the show? Now, if you thought I was going to buy something from Wee County Yarns, you wouldn't be far wrong. I did enjoy that advent calendar that you saw in December, and it's still sitting in my stash. So I didn't feel I needed to add any more of their gorgeous yarns just now, but certainly the way that she'd redesigned the box so that the colours were maybe more in a gradient rather than as they came out to knit the advent cowl, that the colourwork pattern that came with the yarns for Christmas may have inspired me to do something different with that. So although this is maybe not my standard video talking about vintage patterns, I hope you can see how it's inspired you to knit something, even if it's not exactly as the original designer expected. And if you're new here, Patternistas, and want to enjoy some more cute spring knitting patterns with little birds and even some rabbits, these are knitting ends, stops that you can use, then why don't you go and have a look at this video next? Who says the kids can only have the cute patterns? And they can certainly inspire you to make an adult version or add a new design to your colour work. So until next time, Patternistas, stay safe, stay healthy, and happy knitting!